Hey, it's Bill from WTB Woodworking. Today we're going to start a new segment called Product Talk. I thought this segment would be useful. I know when I was purchasing tools and was out looking for information on the tools that I wanted to buy, I looked for a video like this and didn't always find what I was looking for. So I thought I would start that for you. Today we're going to talk about the Dominos, the DF500 and the DF700. The DF500 was developed by Festool and it came out in 2007. The 700 came out in 2014. What are some of the similarities and differences between the two? We're going to go over that. Let's start with the 500. So the 500, this tool is awesome. I mean, for most woodworkers, this is going to be the workhorse for all your loose tenon needs. This particular, the DF500 can do from a domino from 40 by 20 up to 10 by 50. So 10 millimeters wide, 50 millimeters long. There are pivoting fences on here that allow you to go from 0 to 90, and there are indents for all the common angles. It also allows you to accommodate from your slide up and down here for different material thicknesses. One of the things that the 500 has that's different than the 700 is that your gauge on the side here, when you set that to say 18 millimeter or 20 millimeter, that is your material thickness, and it'll automatically place the domino in the center of that dimension. On the 700, that gauge is representing from top of material to center line. So if you set it at 10, the domino will come down and be in your material on the side, 10 millimeters down from the top of the material. This tool here weighs 7.72 pounds, or for those that use kilograms, it's 3.5 kilograms. The max depth that this can go into your material is 1 1/16 inches. It has the standard Festool dust port, which is also 1 1/16 inches. Runs on standard 120, and this uses 420 watts of power, and that's how it gets the 500 in the DF500. The DF stands for a German word I'm not even going to attempt to try to pronounce, but in English it means plate joiner. There's 3 settings on this domino when you set your width of the cut: tight, loose, and wide. On setting 1, which is tight, it's exactly that, it's tight. On setting 2, the slot will be 3 millimeters wider than your set domino width. And setting 3, it will be set 5 millimeters. Now, on the 500, you should always change this setting with the power on. That's different than the XL. On the XL, you could do it on or off. But on the 500, it's recommended by Festool that you turn the width setting while the power's on. That allows all the gears inside to actually mesh correctly. This kit comes with a bunch of different things. Let me get that out to show you. Okay, on the 500, you get the standard plug-it cord. You get the wrench that's used for changing the cutter in the front. You get some replacement detents that are here. You get a replacement set of those. You get the support plate. How the support plate works is for when you're doing plunge cuts down on something, on narrow pieces of wood where you need additional support. What they recommend is that you put the domino just like this, bring this up to it, and there are two screw locations here that match with the two screw locations here. And you screw that in here. And when it's fully screwed in, that'll give you additional support when you're working on smaller parts. The other things that you get are these cross stops. Now how they work is on the bottom of the 500, you'll see a little tenon groove here and a tenon on here. You attach those right in there, and then there's a lever here. Just pull that lever, that'll make it tight. Now, on the side, these wings, you can set the dimension. Say you set that to 200. There's a little marker there that you can look at. You set these to that dimension. And now what you can do is, starting from whatever end you want to start from, if you take this pin and you put it into your slot, from that pin to the center line will give you 200 millimeters of spacing. So now you can actually lay these things out on a long run without doing any measuring and get them to line up. So, and you can do that on the left hand or on the right hand side. In the addition to that, which I should have mentioned first, these detents that are here, if you were to hook your material up against that side, from here to the center line of your cutter is 37 millimeters. So you could easily bring your board up to the first detent, route your slot, and then use your cross stops to equally space down your board without ever having to measure and getting an exact fit. Now, I would recommend on your first one that you do at the starting point, do that on tight, and then for the rest of them going down, just do the rest on the middle setting for a little bit looser, just to give you a little bit of play as you're going down. But with these on, you can go down that board without making one measurement. Lastly, it comes with the trim stop. Now, how this works is you flip your plate down. You loosen these two screws right here. Move the steel back out of the way for a minute. Slide that on to the slots here. Bring in those steel anchor points. There's a little indent inside here that hooks into. And now what you can do using these two adjustable. Now, you know, anything on Festool that's green does something. So that allows you to adjust the width of this. So now you can take any piece of trim, face frame, could be spindles on your handrail or whatever, bring these in. There's a center mark on your plate, so you would line a center mark up with your material. Bring these in so it touches your material on both sides, and now you can repeatedly use that to work on your small parts and put your domino in. The 500 comes with the 5mm cutter. Okay, so that'll come with it. Now, how do you change the cutter? The easiest thing to do is use your wrench. Pop this lever up right here. That'll slide out. Then here's your cutter. Okay. You have a button here on the side. You can just turn that until that button engages. Then you use your 8mm wrench that comes with it, and you can just loosen that off and you're good. Now, You don't, when you put the new one on, you don't have to super tighten it because the rotation that this is spinning in is going to naturally tighten up your cutter. So don't crank it down. The machine will do that for you. Then when you're done, you'll notice that the 500 and the 700 for that matter have offset rods here. That makes it easier for getting it back on. So you can just go ahead and slide in your first one and then bring it up, push it in, and you're good. Okay? On the side over here, we've already showed you this is your material thickness, and this you set it to the material thickness like I told you about, and that'll put the cut in center of that dimension. Over here is your depths. You could go from 12, 15, 20, 25, and 28. That's your depth stop, how far it's going to go in. Okay? There are other accessories available for the 500 that don't come in the kit. There is the handrail fence adapter. So that's good for like top and bottom rails on if you're doing a hand railing. We also have the Domino assortment, where you get an assortment pack of all the different dominoes. That's good to have because you don't know what you're going to be using initially when you first get going. And then you can just keep refilling that with small boxes of dominoes as you use them up. And then there's the Domino Connector series, which allows you to basically make furniture similar to, I hate to use the term IKEA, but like IKEA, where you have in a much better and much stronger connection. So that's the connector. Now the handrail fence part number is 494847. The Domino tenon assortment is part number 576794. And the Domino connector range, which is that set of all the connector hardware. I don't have the part number for that, I'm sorry. The Dominoes are one of the only tools that Festool makes that you must use dust collection with. So you must put a dust hose on here and use that when you use this tool, because there's nothing getting that, if you don't have dust collection on, there's nothing getting the sawdust out of the slot for the Domino. And what happens is, as you're going down, you're doing multiple of these holes. If you're not getting the dust out, you're heating that tip up, and eventually you could either dull or break, and you have to have dust collection with the Domino. That's pretty much it. It covers everything on the Domino. Now you also get your warranty card and instruction manual that comes in the kit for this. The sustainer that it comes with has space in here for all the additional cutters. Like I said, it comes with the 5mm, and you can get from the 4 up to the 10mm that you can do with this that comes with it. I don't recommend using OEM or I should say other brand cutters. Make sure you're using the Festool cutters when you're using the Domino. All right, let's get set up for the 700. Okay, this is the DF700 XL. So this is the big boy in the Domino family. As you can see, you get a larger sustainer with this. You get 2 assortment trays. The other thing is that you get your 12mm bit that comes with the 700. You get a larger wrench. You get the cross stops that come with the same as the 500. I'll show you how they go on here in a minute. You get the support bracket, same as the 500. You get your trim stop, similar to the 500. You get your standard plug-it cord. And of course, you get the 700. This also is set up for your standard dust collection, 1/16 diameter. This also has the ability to do the 0 to 90 degrees. And it has indents again for all your typical angles. You have the lever on the side here, which allows you to slide up and down. The 700 can cut dominoes from 8mm up to 14mm. It has the positive stops for 22.5, 45, 67.5, and 90 degrees. This thing weighs a little bit more though. This one weighs 11.46 pounds, or 5.5 kilograms. The dust port's the standard dust port for 1 1/16 inch. The max routing depth, how far can you cut in the out here, is 2 3/4 inches. This uses 720 watts of power and runs on 110. That's how it gets the 700 designation. Now on the XL or the 700, there's a lever switch here that allows you to go from loose to tight, tight to loose. Now on that, 2 settings. Tight's tight, obviously. Loose is a 5 millimeter wider slot. So tight, it'll be exact. Loose, 5 millimeters. Now on the 700, you do not need to have the power on when you change that lever. You could do it on or off. It works just fine. One of the things that's different on the 700 that the 500 doesn't have is there's the ability to have 2 stops. So you could have offsetting stops and quickly bounce back and forth. So you could have one set to 25, have the other set to 50. So you could be using a 75 millimeter tenon, and you could have it go in on one side 25 millimeters and on the other side go in 50 millimeters, and you just quickly slide back and forth between that. So these two here, again, anything that's green on Festool does something. So this allows you to slide those around, and then you can have your stop set. Now, if you're going to do 50 millimeters on both, you just set it to 50, and you could do both sides at 50 millimeters. But this allows you to have offsetting tenons, mortises for your tenon. You could have it, different combinations. We've already talked about it. I'll go over it again. On the 700, the material gauge that's over here, again, that's from top of material down to where the cutter is going to actually go. So as you set this, it can go from 10 millimeters, 15, 20, 25, 30, and 40 millimeters. So that's 40 millimeters from top of surface to center line of cut. Okay, that's a little bit different than the 500. Changing the bit here, inside the tool, there's a green lever here. You just use your wrench, pop that lever up. Same thing, it slides out. You would put your bit on here. You have a button here on the side, right here, that will stop this from spinning and allow you to put your cutter on. And again, don't crank it down, just tighten it up snug. As the tool runs, it'll tighten up more. Again, you have the offset rods, so it makes it easier for sliding that in. Okay. Both the 500 and the 700 both have a collar stop that it ships with. You got to take that off before you use it. Okay, you have your guide there, same as before on the 500. On a flat surface, you go ahead and attach that, run that in. Now you have a little bit of additional support where you're going in this direction. You have your cross stops. They are the same as the 500. They work both on the 500 and the 700. The only thing you need to do is pay attention to the front to see if it's set for 500 or 700. These are right now set up for the 500. So what you need to do is loosen this gauge here. Flip this around once you get it loose here. Flip it around just like that, and then tighten it back up. And now the DF700 will be down here on the bottom, and that will give you the right offset, because there is a little bit of a difference on the offset from the 500 to the 700. So you have to do that. You need to adjust both these to make sure that they're set up for the 700. And we'll do that real quick. And now we're set up. for 700s. And you need, by default, I think they ship set up for the 500. So you need to set it up for the 700. And the same thing on the 500, there is a groove in the bottom. These lock into that groove. And you lock it down. And again, you can go and do your first hole, the first mortise, and then put that into the mortise, pull it tight, and keep going down. You can set that to whatever dimension you want. So again, you can set this up to run and not have to do any measuring at all. Now, on the 700, which is different than the 500, you have, on each side of the bit, you have 3 detents, okay? Those detents are set up a little bit different than the 500. The detents are set up, the first one right here, 20 millimeters from the detent to the cut. The second one is the same as the 500, it's 37 millimeters. And the third one is 50 millimeters. So you could have them, you could just have it in where you're only using the 50, where you push there's a button on the side to release those. You can have it set up to where you could just use any one of them, or you could use all 3, whatever you want to do. And that green button's on both sides, that releases those. So it's a little bit different. You have 3 different options on the 700 that you don't have on the 500. Excuse me. Again, the max routing depth on this is 2 3/4. Some of the other accessories that are available for the 700 are the handrail fence. It's the same handrail fence that you would use with the 500. That's part number 494847. Then you have 2 domino assortments. So because the range is so great on the 700, going from 8 millimeters to 14 millimeters, they have 2 assortment sets on the tenons. So you can get the D8s and the D10s assortment. That's part number 576791. When you get that assortment, you also get 2 cutters with that assortment. Really, it's a pretty good deal if you think about it, because the cutters are expensive themselves. The dominoes are expensive themselves, but you get them in the kit. You're getting 2 cutters, one the 8, one the 10, and the assortment all included in that. And that's actually a pretty good deal. That's part number 576791. The Beach Domino Tenon assortment, the D12 and the D14. Now in this kit, you'll only get a cutter for the D14s because the 12 comes in the box. So they don't give you another 12. And that's part number 576792. And now, what I really like about the Domino XL and what we use a lot in our shop is the connector system for the 700. I really don't use it as much on the 500, but on the 700 we use it quite often. And they are very robust and very strong. That assortment range, the kit, is part number 576795. And if you have any need to be able to take furniture apart, or an example that we just did recently is we did a bar top for a customer that was a big U. It could not fit in his house fully assembled. So we used the connectors on the 45-degree miters to go ahead and pull those connections very, very tight, but yet have the ability to take them apart. And then he could bring it into his home and install it and put it back together. And he had the exact same tightness as we had in the shop. So it's something really to think about. And like I said, on the 700, they're very, very strong. Now, let's talk about pricing on both of these. There is a price difference between the 500 and the 700. The 500, as of today, is $1,279 for the kit that I showed you earlier. And that is the January 2025 pricing. The DF700 is $1,749 as of today, which is early January 2025. So there is a price difference between the two of them. There is some overlap between the 500 and the 700, they both can do the 8 and 10 millimeter cutters. You could do longer ones with the 700, but you both the 500 and the 700 can do the 8 and 10 millimeter dominoes. Excuse me. That's pretty much our summary on both of the tools. Next, I'm going to show you these tools in operation. Right now, I'm going to show you the Festool, the DF500. We're going to do 3 mortise and tenons into these 2 boards, and we're going to do it without doing any measuring at all. What we will do is we will mark the top of the material. So that's our reference surface, so that we know when or what surface we are working from, so we don't get confused when we flip around to the other boards. And then just gonna mark a circle here on each side. That's gonna tell me that this area right here is my starting point when I start the process of putting the dominoes in. Now, we'll move this board out of our way. We'll start with the first one. This is my starting point on this one, so we're gonna turn it around because I want my slots on this side. Okay, we're just going to clamp this board in place so it doesn't move on us. All right, so we have that in there. And then what we're going to do is we're going to use the first detent on the side here to get our first location. So we'll be 37 millimeters from the detent to the center line of the cutout. The other thing we're going to do is we're going to set this depth. We're using 40 millimeter 6x40s is going to be our domino. So we'll set this to 20 millimeters for the depth of the cut. Okay, so we set that dimension on the side. The very first one we're going to do on setting number 1. So we're going to turn it on. You should always change this on the 500 with the power on. So we're going to set that to setting 1. All right, so we're set to setting 1. Again, we're going to use the first detent. What we're going to do is just start outside of the wood and bring it down until the wood touches that detent, and that'll set our location. Here we go. So that gave us our first slot, our first domino slot. And if we take this off the clamp, you'll see very little dust has come out of that hole. So you must use dust collection when you're using the domino on any operation that you're doing, that you're going to use the domino. It's got to get that dust out of there. Okay, now for the next 2 holes going down, what we're going to do is take the pin, line it up into the slot, and then pull it all the way to the right. That's going to set the location. So we're not doing any measuring, okay? We're letting the tool just automatically align itself. And on these here, on this side of the board, we're going to do all of them on the tight setting. So we just laid out all 3 holes. We didn't pull tape on anything. We got exact alignment on all 3 of those holes. Now what we're gonna do is we're gonna bring in the other board. Our starting point now is here. This is our reference surface. So we're gonna bring that up. We're gonna move our clamp now down to this side over here. Okay. Now the first one, we will still do on the tight setting, and then the second 2 we'll do on the loose setting, the middle setting. Again, we're gonna reference off of now the detent on this side, okay? And we're gonna just bring that out past the wood, bring it down till it stops. That'll set the alignment to match the other side. Now we'll switch to the loose setting. What that does by setting that loose setting that does give us a little bit of leeway on the next holes. You can see now that if I line these up, they line up perfectly, but you got a little wider slot on the second half. That just gives a little bit of an opportunity to adjust the, if we need to get them to line up. Now, a little trick to get these dominoes to be able to dry fit is the little ridge that's on the top. When you're doing your dry fit, just sand a little bit right there, get rid of that ridge, and then now they will go in a lot easier for you. And just for the dry fit, you have the ability to get them out a lot easier as well. So now I have the dominoes in, my reference point's here. We'll bring this over, get that to line up right there, and they go together, and now you'll see flush at the end, flush on the top surface. You don't see any problem there. And now if you were to glue this up and clamp it, you'd have a perfectly tight and aligned glue joint. All right, next what we're gonna do is we're gonna set the 500 up with the trim adapter, and we'll show you how easily you could repeat cuts on the ends of these to go ahead and get dominoes on the end if you needed to, if you're doing a face frame or whatever. Let's get set up for that. All right, now I'm gonna show you how to do repeatable mortises in the ends of like a face frame or whatever, and only have to set this up one time. All right, so this is your trim adapter, okay? Again, that slides over your tool here. Okay, then you take these two knobs and the steel anchor bars here. There's a little indent here in the tool that'll go in there, and then you crank that down. That'll hold it in place. All right, now we have the ability now with the two adjustment knobs here to adjust the width of the opening. Okay, we'll eyeball center, but let's say that's center right there. You bring your material up, your stop up to that on each side. Crank the green knobs down. So now it's set for that material width. If you had a center line on this, you would line it up with the center line on the bottom plate, okay? And that'll come in here like this. Then what you can do is let's just clamp this down to the table. And then for this one, we'll clamp it twice. Okay, so now we have it set up. We have our material width set up here, and I could just bring that in. That'll get me dead center to my profile. All right, we'll go ahead and do a mortise cut on the end here. Now we'll get set up for the matching one. Use the guides again, not taking any measurements. Before I shut it off last time, I did switch to the tight setting on this side. And then you can see that I have two matching mortises, and if I get a domino, I sand that edge off just for the fit. I can put the domino in here, marry them up, And because I went with the loose fitting there, I can adjust that a little bit to get that to be perfect. Now you could do this on the side as well, so that you get, doing your face frame, you could get perfect alignment. Okay? So that's the end of the demonstration on the Dominos. All right, if you like the video, please like and subscribe. We also, just so you know, we have all the Domino, both the 500, 700 in stock. You can purchase online or in store. And we have all the accessories, the Domino assortment kits, the connectors, all the different attachments. Everything we talked about in the video is available on our website. All right? And we'll see you next time.